Now, Jason Pack is a researcher at Cambridge University who focuses on Libyan history and runs a consultancy called Libya-Analysis. He joins me now from New York City. Good to have you with us live on Al Jazeera, Mr. Pack. Can I just begin with the fact that Libya has been unstable since the fall of President Gaddafi, with rival factions all vying for control of the country. How serious is this latest development in the much wider picture of trying to bring Libya back to a unified nation?
Well, that's a good way to look at it. In fact, it is an exaggeration to refer to this as a coup, because for a coup to work or to have any meaning, there has to be a government that has power, and you try to take that power away. In Libya, since 2014, there have been no government. There's two governments. Then with the UN process, there's been three governments, but none of them actually control any territory. The power holders in Libya are the militias. So what's really happened is some militias in Tripoli that oppose the UN-backed GNA government have said, you know, we're not going to stand idly by. We're going to put in place the old puppet GNC government, or National Salvation Government, under Khalifa Ghawel, and try to undermine the UN process. And it's not that surprising that they do this, because they've always opposed the GNA. What this move shows, though, is that the GNA process could be on the verge of breaking down.
How significant, then, are this particular group in trying to sway one side or the other?
Well, Ghawel himself is just a puppet. He represents a coalition, as it were, of Islamists, some jihadists, and various spoiler actors. I think that the name that many people know, of course, is the Mufti of Libya, Sadiq al-Gharyani. He has long been a thorn in the side of any Western attempt to bring together the Tobruk and Tripoli governments. And in a way, this is a cascade or a domino effect from the real elephant in the room, whose name we haven't mentioned, and that's Khalifa Haftar, the rogue general in eastern Libya who on September 11th of this year took over the oil crescent ports. And he's now become Libya's most powerful man. He's letting the oil flow, and as that oil flows, it could be strengthening the UN process and strengthening the General National Accord government. So his opponents, such as the former National Salvation Government, can't let this go on too long, and they want to prevent Haftar from being included in any UN negotiations and the GNA process. So that's probably, in my mind, why the coup timing happened right now.
Indeed, I think you read my mind. I was going to bring in Khalifa Haftar right now, because for our international viewers, there's so many interpolitics going on in Libya. It's quite difficult to actually try and clarify who's on which side. But Khalifa Haftar is a former general, has played a significant role in sort of building his fiefdom to one side of the country. He's currently cooperating with the government, as you mentioned, with those sales of oil, which the oil revenue is so very, very important to Libya's survival. How important is control of those oil fields in terms of the larger political arena, where both sides, pro and against the legitimate government, are trying to control the country and bring it, I say, back into order?
Well, to bastardize Churchill's famous quote, it's Libya that's a conundrum wrapped in an enigma, wrapped in a paradox. Because Khalifa Haftar now controls the oil, as we've made clear, but his enemy is the GNA, the UN-backed government. And yet he's letting the proceeds from that oil, which is now being exported, fund his enemy, the GNA. And yet he has another enemy, which are these Islamist militia groups that have just put in place the government of Khalifa Ghawel. So Haftar is disliked by the Islamists and disliked by the UN process. All of these three stakeholders are playing like a shell game to keep the other out. I could see a scenario whereby Haftar might be included in the GNA, but I could see a scenario in which Haftar works against the GNA with Ghawel and the former GNC to undo the whole UN process. So yes, Libya, many nested layers of paradoxes.
Indeed, and thanks for clarifying for it. Jason Pack there from Cambridge University joining us from New York. Thanks, sir.
My pleasure.